I've been working on a new opening recently against the Sicilian Defence called the Grand Prix Attack, and it's kind of a fun one. I haven't really learned a lot of sort of theory yet, or I haven't really memorized any like really tricky lines or anything like that, but I've learned a bunch of the key ideas, which are fairly easy. Like you don't always get to use all of them, but it has some nice kind of ideas, and I've used it in a few games here and there. So just wanted to kind of introduce it using this example game where it went pretty well, and some of the ideas sort of came to fruition and worked out quite well. So of course I'm playing white, black plays the Sicilian, and it starts off with knight c3, so it's a closed Sicilian setup. And then after knight c6, white plays f4, and this is what enters the Grand Prix attack. And here are the basic ideas of the opening. First of all, this bishop is going to want to come either to c4 or b5. Sometimes the bishop actually trades off for this knight. Sometimes it just adds some pressure to the king side. This knight is going to develop out here. The king is going to castle kingside. The pawn is going to push to d3 to open up this bishop. And then the queen will go probably to e1, and then often the queen then goes to h4. And the idea is we're kind of lining up all of our pieces against the king side and trying to really launch a king side attack. Obviously, in some cases, like depending on what black does with these central pawns, and maybe if black decides to actually castle queenside, like we might have to change our plans. But those are the general ideas. Usually there will be a pawn break on f5, possibly even a pawn sacrifice on f5, actually, to open up this f file and open up the bishop, and again, just really get everything rolling for an attack on the black king. So that's kind of how this game went. I developed the knight. This is a common move preventing the bishop from going there, but since I still wanted the option of putting the bishop here without it being kicked by the b pawn, I played a4. Black will often fianchetto this bishop, not always, but it's pretty common. So I brought the bishop out as planned and got castled as planned. Now, I've marked this as sort of an inaccuracy. It's not a terrible move, but often what you'll see is black putting the knight here. And the reason that's nice is because it's defending the pawn on h7. So after castling, if I'm able to reroute my queen around and bring the knight here, then I have a pretty powerful attack against this h-pawn, and having the knight on f6 can be an additional defender for black. So putting the knight here seemed like not the best position, but not terrible. So as per the plan, I'm opening up my dark squared bishop. And then this was a mistake because the black's dark squared bishop is actually a really important defender of the dark squares around the king. And you'll see why later on in this game. So trading off that bishop for the knight here is very much a mistake by black. So I captured. Black sort of attacked this bishop, and after trading one pawn, I slid it back. Turns out it would have been a little bit better to actually bring the bishop back here, but it didn't make much of a difference in the game. And now black castles. Honestly, after they traded off their dark squared bishop, I kind of wondered if they might actually kind of move things over and castle queenside, and that might have been the better plan. But they castled kingside. And so now I'm going for my plan. I bring the queen here, probably going to bring it here, bring the knight, move the pawn, bring the bishop, just really storm that king. Now, looking back at the game, I don't remember what was going through my head when I played this move, because as I just mentioned, I want to bring everything over here. The knight probably wants to be on g5, not on e5. I guess I think maybe I was seeing some issues or seeing some ghosts with like that pawn, and I maybe wanted to get that knight out of there. I'm not sure, but I think the best possible thing happened here. Black actually captured my knight, so I could recapture with my f-pawn, and that opens up this file and this bishop, which is what I was going for. So I think I kind of got lucky, but I don't think that was actually a good move. Anyway, that's what happened, and of course there's a discovered attack here I have to be careful of. There was like a better move here, moving the queen to f2, which prevents that because the black queen would be hanging, but I didn't see that. I just moved the king. And then after rook a to c8, I moved my queen to f2. I think h4 also would have been fine, but I thought the queen could pretty easily go to the f6 square, and this bishop could go to h6, and that would be a devastating attack. And that's exactly what I started to do. And then my opponent actually gave me an opportunity to demonstrate another key idea of the Grand Prix attack, which is they saw that this bishop was coming in, and so they moved the knight here in order to cover the h6 square. But in a few different lines of the Grand Prix attack, we take advantage of this open f-file and sacrifice the rook in order to remove one of the defenders. So sometimes it's a knight on f6, which is defending this h7 pawn, and the rook will sacrifice for that. But the same idea applies here. I sacrifice the rook for that knight, and then after black recaptures, I bring in the bishop, and it's game over. Black resigned in this position because checkmate is, I believe, unstoppable at this point. So it's a pretty interesting opening. I'm going to study it a little bit more. I'm sure there are lots of different interesting lines and ways that black can prevent some of these ideas, and so I will dig a little bit deeper. But it's interesting how even just knowing a few of those basic ideas and trying to apply them to a game like this has been pretty successful for me in just a few games that I've tried it with. So that is the Grand Prix attack as white against the Sicilian. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll probably be making some more sort of quick opening like introduction videos like this in the future. So let me know if that sounds interesting and if there's anything in particular you'd like to see. And until then, I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.